So as we head into what should be a crazy week, I get asked every now and then about what I think about this player or that player and who's going to get taken for expansion. And I've done expansion drafts myself. I've done the mock expansion drafts, and I've enjoyed doing them. I have. But there is one thing for me that I find interesting, and that is, while we're all talking about the big names, Fleury and all these other guys, there are storylines that seem to get lost here. And so I figured I'd do a list. I was going to do a top 10. It turned into a top 11 of players slash teams, because in some cases it's more than one player per team, that I think are going to be interesting going into expansion. And it's not a matter of I think Vegas will take these players. It's a matter of what if something happens and these are the guys who get picked. At number 11 on the list, Pittsburgh's Derek Pouliot. Look, when you're a first-round draft pick, you've got a certain pedigree, and sometimes an expansion team can save you. And, you know, it hasn't worked out for him in Pittsburgh. I don't think it's going to work out for him in Pittsburgh. And I could see him going to Vegas. I also want to add this. This isn't necessarily these are guys who are going to get taken on the 21st. These are guys who could find themselves in Vegas by October. There's going to be a lot of side deals. There's going to be a lot of guys getting moved. And these are guys, all of these are guys who currently are projected to be exposed when the expansion draft rolls around. Number 10, Jordan Wheel in Philly. Played well last year. He's young. That's the kind of guy that if you're in Vegas, you roll the dice, for lack of a better term, and see what you got. At number 9, making sure I got the right number of cards. Number 9 is Jesper Fast in New York. He's exposed. He's talented. He is, as his last name says, fast. It's funny, when he was drafted, there was an H at the end of that name, and he dropped the H when he came over. Probably got tired of being called fast. Number 8 on the list, and this is as a Bruins fan, what if they take Subban? What if Malcolm Subban, what if they take a chance on resurrecting this guy? And again, it's that first-round pedigree, and once you're a first-rounder, there's always going to be a GM that will take a shot at you once. Usually, with a first-round draft pick, if it doesn't work out with the team that drafted him, somebody's going to give him a shot. And with expansion, it's the perfect time for a team to come in and say, we'll give him a shot. Number 7, Marco Dano in Winnipeg. I know Winnipeg just re-signed him, but odds are he doesn't get protected. There's enough upside there that I honestly could see Vegas taking a shot at him. And I know people out there are probably saying, this is going to be the softest team ever. Probably, at least when they do the expansion. There's going to be a lot of enforcers and tough guys available July 1st. What you're going to get in this expansion draft is as much young talent as you can, and then you're going to try to assemble a team around them that can not necessarily just protect them and police things, but some bigger guys and some experienced guys to offset that youth, that talent. Number 6, I'm surprised that Cam Ward's name doesn't come up more. I know, they got Scott Darling. I know, they signed him to a contract. Cam Ward's kind of being just left out there. I could see Vegas giving him a shot, and honestly, after 10 years in Carolina, Ward might be rejuvenated going somewhere else. He's not over the hill. His stats have suffered over the last few years, sure. But is he over the hill? No. He's not over the hill. And I honestly am surprised that you don't hear more people talking about him. It's like when somebody made a comment on one of my videos earlier today. Well, who's better than Fleury that's out there? Well, at number 5 on the list, I don't know who Colorado's picking, but Semyon Varlamov or Calvin Pickard. I can't see Varlamov being protected. I don't care what Colorado said earlier in the season or even in the offseason. I just can't see Calvin Pickard being out there, because if Pickard's available, he's the starting goaltender for Vegas. And if they have a shot at Pickard and Ward as their goaltending tandem, that's better than some teams that are currently in the NHL. I think Philly would love to have that for their tandem. Pickard and Ward. Pickard's a good goaltender. And I honestly think that he's the kind of young goaltender. He's been through a shooting gallery last year in Colorado. He's already proven he can play through it. If Varlamov is the guy who gets picked, Varlamov's got something to prove coming back next year. It's an interesting storyline. Now, It's almost as interesting as number 4. This is the Nashville mess. Do you take Sissons? Do you take Watson? Or do you take whichever one's not protected between Yarncroke and Neal? It looks like Neal's going to be the one exposed. I take Watson. If I'm a GM, if I'm George McPhee, I take Watson and run. But Sissons scored some big goals. Sissons has a lot of sandpaper too. And if Yarncroke is available, he probably trumps both Watson and Sissons. If Neal's available, I honestly, I don't think Vegas touches James Neal. I don't. Number 3, Jack Johnson. Columbus fans are like, Boone Jenner's not going anywhere. You might be right, because Jack Johnson had a fantastic season. Columbus losing Jack Johnson would be a loss, and I talked all kinds of smack about Jack Johnson last year during the offseason. I mocked his defense and his overall game, and you know what? He made me eat my words this year. He was a fantastic top 4 defenseman. Decent amount of points, good at his own end of the ice for the first time in his career. And yet Columbus fans seem to be more concerned with losing Boone Jenner. That's a shame, because if you lose Boone Jenner and you keep Jack Johnson, I think you're further ahead, because it is easier to find a young forward than to find a young defenseman, especially a top 4 defenseman. I honestly think he could be a top 2 guy for Vegas next year. Number 2, and it's not that people aren't talking about him, it's the fact that he could be exposed. Oh, I don't think Radulov gets re-signed by Vegas. I don't think that would be the game at all. I've gone through these drafts over and over and over again. It is very easy now to create a roster where you've got 20 guys who are signed to contracts next year. You grab Radulov so you have exclusive rights to talking to him. You grab Radulov because you're salivating at the idea of having Shipachev and Radulov in your top 6. And then you can talk to Jersey about what they want for Kovalchuk. I've said it for a while, and I still think that would be an advantageous spot for Kovalchuk. And number 1 on the list, because everybody's panicking. Are we going to lose Brodin? Is Brodin going? Is Dumba going? It should be Zucker. This kid, he has potential to score 30 goals in a season. I'm not sure why everybody's panicking over Minnesota's blue line, because Zucker, and depending on what happens and who they protect, Niederreiter could be the guy. There hasn't been any word yet on whether or not Pominville was asked. I know that I found an article where they said they didn't know whether he was asked. Chuck Fletcher was dodging the topic, and Pominville wouldn't broach the topic of whether he was asked. And if there's a contentious issue there, we may not know until we see who's exposed for Minnesota. But I'm telling you, I think Minnesota would miss Jason Zucker, just like I think Jack Johnson would be missed by Columbus. When you look at these lists, when you look at the guys who are being exposed, there are players who to me are obvious picks for an expansion team. And I think, you know, if you can have a top 6 where they've already got Shipachev, if you can talk Radulov into playing there, you've got Dano, you've got Zucker, you've got guys who can score goals. You got Johnson on the point, okay. You've got something. You've got pieces that will help you, not just now, but later as well. They're young pieces that can play well. They can play a secondary role later and a primary role now. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to link to TSN's Assemble the Knights Draft Simulator. It's a fun little tool. They seem to have the inside information on who they believe is going to be protected and who's going to be exposed. I don't think they're 100% correct, and as we saw with trades over the last couple of days, these lists are going to change. So take everything with a grain of salt, even take my list here with a grain of salt. I just think there's guys that are under the radar in terms of what Vegas could take, what Vegas could do. Let me know your picks. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I'm really glad for expansion because it gives us something to talk about before the draft. And something to talk about. 442 subscribers at last count from 7,000. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing videos, for commenting on videos, for upvoting, and for just being an awesome audience. I owe all you guys, and I'll talk to you again later.